Hey, it's John Foss. Very excited to be talking with Gravano, Karina Seabrook. We're talking about Families of the Mafia. It airs Thursdays at 8 on MTV. Thank you guys for being with us and tell us about the show.
The show is basically following five families that are coming from mafia backgrounds, but they're trying to navigate through life and change the course. Each family has their own individual struggle, and it's just huge stories. And I think every story is actually relatable, even though it's called Mafia Families. I think the whole concept of the show is the struggles that families go through. So it's very interesting. We took a different direction this season where we involved more of, the inner conflicts that families go through.
Sammy the Bull Gravano is your father, Karen, and your grandfather, Karina. What's it like being a part of his family?
For me, I grew up around it. Karina, basically, her grandfather was away most of her life, so she's seen the negative aspects of that lifestyle. Me, I lived in the glitz and the glamour, but Karina really had to live through the after effects.
Yeah, he was away my whole life, so I really, didn't have much time to spend with him outside of this.
Now that he's home, we're able to really like kind of build those bonds and get back in a family setting.
Yes.
How hard is it for your family to change from having this history with the mafia and being in trouble with the law to trying to change a family tree and become and do things legitimately?
For me, growing up, coming from the roots that I come from, my mom actually always kept me away from that lifestyle. It was almost like it was normal to me. So to me, I grew up, no matter what my family went through or who my family is, that was just family to me. I grew up being, independent, always working, always away from that lifestyle. So this season actually shows a lot of it, a lot about how I, make a complete turn and try to change the chain of the family history of a lot of criminal background and
for me, I was definitely involved more into not personally being in the mob myself, but the repercussions of that lifestyle, because I grew up directly, with my father being the underboss, and then when he went to prison, having to kind of pick up the pieces. But I think we've all learned from the lessons, and not just our family. I think we kind of get into that with every other family on the show, is showing how they take, the lessons that our families have been through and try to navigate to a better place.
One of the big things that you two focus on in this show is prison reform. What do you think about the progress that has been made, and how can the country change to make better changes going forward?
I think just shedding light. There are so many people now that are speaking out and giving inmates a voice. There has been steps in the prior administration before Trump, and Trump made changes, and hopefully it'll keep going in that direction, because these people are human beings and they're trapped behind walls and they don't have, basically a voice. And I was just watching, I think it was Maya Moore, she's a basketball player who kind of stepped away from the sport to really focus on prison reform. So there are so many people, Kim Kardashian, and just, people coming forward to really give these people a voice. There's a lot of injustice within the system. And I think there's like a climate within government, because they're starting to realize that some of the sentences that were handed out in the 80s and 90s were extremely harsh, and people deserve a second chance. They change. So I think just people coming together, understanding that there are human beings behind walls that made mistakes and they're changing in the right direction, and we could just help them and kind of be their voices.
What's the current state of the mafia influence in the United States today? Are a lot of the families like yours trying to change and do things legitimately, or is there still a big mafia presence in the United States?
I think there's always going to be a mafia. There's always going to be some sort of, criminal organizations and things. But I think in the way the world is today, nobody goes into crime wanting, to keep that going. So there are so many avenues where people can take a legitimate outlet, and then, they're just pushing in that direction. So, I'm pretty sure there'll always be that type of, lifestyle, but being able to be out there and, for me personally, say that doesn't pay because of all the trials and tribulations that we went through. Now I'm here. I made my mistakes. The only thing I can do is learn from my lessons and try to teach Karina to be better. And we just keep pushing the next generations into a better place.
Hollywood has always had a big interest in the mafia and their storytelling that goes with it. Which shows or films would you say get it right?
I think for me growing up in that world, The Godfather 1 and 2 were very accurate. I love The Sopranos. They really got it right. And Goodfellas. You know, I grew up in that era, so like Goodfellas was a good movie to me. And it was based off a true story.
All right, well, Karen Gravano, Karina Seabrook, thank you guys so much for being with us. Twin Cities, check out Families of the Mafia. It airs Thursdays at 8 on MTV.
Thank you.